Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens. Welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Kara.
So, Kara, what did we do last weekend?
We went to Louisville. That's where we went. I don't know why I forgot where we went.
Yes, very good. We went to Louisville. Oh my God. Woo! All right. So what did we do while we were in Louisville? Do you remember?
We went to some stuff. We checked out some local stuff.
All right. So, yes, we did. We went to the Waverly Hills Sanatorium, which we did a bonus episode on, and you can hear all about that on our bonus episode that came out last Friday. Where else did we go while we were there?
We went to the Goatman Bridge. Well, their version of a Goatman. It was the Pope Lake Monster. Yeah. Specifically. Right?
Right. That's what they called. Yeah, that's what they called their Goatman, the Pope Lake Monster.
Because they saw like a. Yeah. He apparently runs across the bridge if you go across. It's like a train. It's not like a real bridge. It's like a train bridge. If you know what I mean. It's like where the train goes across.
Yep. It's a bridge for a train. It's like way high up and it goes over a creek, and the deal is that if you are walking across, if you attempt to cross it, the Goatman will come and appear, and and when he appears, a train comes right behind him and it'll force you to have to jump off the bridge and basically die. But yeah, so we checked that out while we were in Louisville. What else did we do? Oh, we went to that really cool pumpkin thing, the Spooktacular Pumpkin walk that they have there at one of their city parks. That was really cool. If you have the opportunity to go check that out, we really recommend that. That was very neat. This year's theme was for TV, so they had all these different pumpkins carved to the different eras of television, and they had like a lot of well-known TV programs. They also had a lot of cable programs, TV shows on there also. They did like Animal Planet and all that. They also had Netflix and stuff. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was really.
We had a good time.
To see all the pumpkins.
Yeah, they did a lot of. Whoever carved those did an awesome job. I mean, I was blown away by how awesome they were. Very cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
I highly recommend you check it out.
Yeah, I thought that's all we did was we went to that. Oh, we went to the cemetery also. That's what we did.
Oh, the cemetery! How could we forget about that?
Yeah, I don't know why, but I forgot about that.
We got to see where the Colonel Sanders was buried. Yeah, from KFC. We got to see Muhammad Ali's grave. Yeah. And then we drove around and saw some other different graves and stuff. It was pretty cool. Very neat really place.
Pretty. It's a very pretty place.
Yeah, what was it called? It's like an arboretum too, because they have all the different types of trees that
Cave
Hill. Cave Hill Cemetery.
Cave Hill Cemetery. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool.
It was pretty cool, and it was a Sunday, so there was not a lot of people there.
Yeah, which was nice. It was really easy to walk around and not, feel like you're crowded or anything.
Yeah, other than that, that's all we really did.
Yeah, so that's what we did last weekend. Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. All right.
Yep.
What do you have for us today for our special Halloween episode?
Well, today for our special Halloween episode, since Halloween is this week on Sunday, we thought it would be cool if we both chose a movie that was based off of a real story. Or a scary movie, I should say, that was based off of a real story.
Movie. Scary movie specifically, or paranormal movie.
Right. I chose Child's Play with our friend Chucky. Because Chucky, or Child's Play, and the character Chucky, more to the point, is based off of Robert the Doll. So,
I didn't know he was based off of that.
I didn't know that either. It was very interesting. But when you start thinking about it, it all makes sense. Kind of the similarities between him and the Robert the Doll thing.
Yeah, because I know of Robert the Doll. I think Robert the Doll is cool.
Great. I'll let Robert the doll know that.
We can send him a letter.
You can. And you know what? You got to be really careful, too. Or you're not supposed to take a picture, like, without asking
I'm
Robert
scared
if it's okay.
to go. Yeah, or you have to ask.
Yeah,
you have to
otherwise
ask him.
he's not happy and bad things happen. But I'll tell you all about that in a few minutes. But we should go to Key West. That's where he's at.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool trip.
Is that where he's at? Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go see him.
Get me too. They say that during the month of October, right now he's at an old Civil War fort, but during the month of October they actually move him to downtown Key West, like in a centrally located place, and put him on display so everybody can see him for Halloween. But anyway, so Child's Play, aka Chucky, was actually inspired by Robert the Doll. For those of you that don't know, Robert the Doll was this one-of-a-kind toy that was first owned and named by a Florida painter by the name of Robert Eugene Otto. Now, there are several versions of how Gene, as he liked to go by, got the doll. But the most popular one that a lot of people, and what Chucky based their character off of, the story goes that he was gifted the doll by a Bohemian woman who was actually the maid for the family, and she was allegedly into voodoo. And she made this doll as a gift for Robert as a way to seek revenge on the family for the abuse that she felt that she had endured by this family. Now, what I come to find out as I started looking around and poking around, the other real version that they claim where he's located at in the Civil War museum is that 3 feet by 4 inches doll. He got him on his birthday from his grandfather, actually, who had bought the doll during a trip to Germany. The museum actually traced Robert's origin to the Steiff Company, which is also the company, interestingly enough, that introduced the teddy bear, which was named after President Theodore Roosevelt. So the same company that made teddy bears famous actually made Robert the doll. They believe that Robert was never actually intended to be a toy, and that originally he was supposed to be a window display. So we have no idea how the grandfather came to get this doll. And he's made of hay, like the whole inside of him. It's not like stuffing like most dolls, you get today, or a lot of them. It's actually made of hay. So they have to be really careful when they're trying, to preserve it all these years, to make sure that, because when hay gets wet, it gets really moldy and gross. So they have them in a very environmental friendly case to make sure that he doesn't get any mold in there. Because Florida is very humid, so all that moisture going in there is not good. And the sailor suit that you see him in, that he wears, they think that was actually one of Gene's actual outfits he might have wore when he was little. So, they put that on him, I guess, as a way to make, him more, Eugene like him more. I don't know. So, yeah, so that's the other story about how Robert came to be, or where he came from. So, after he got this doll for his birthday, he came to love this doll so much that he would bring it everywhere he went. And I mean, we're talking everywhere. It got to the point where Robert ended up naming the doll after himself. Remember, his first name is Robert, but he would always go by Eugene. And so he ended up naming the doll Robert, actually. So that's how the doll got his name. And he would always refer to the doll in first person as Robert. So he came, and it was so weird. Like when I didn't know all the whole background story on this. But, so strange things would happen around the home. Like the furniture would get rearranged, toys would get destroyed. And what Eugene would do is he would blame Robert for anything that he did that was bad. So if he accidentally broke a plate or something, he would blame it on the doll, and he'd be like, "Oh, well, Robert did that." If he would have a temper tantrum and he would, cause something to break, he'd blame it on Robert the doll. So Robert, had all this negative energy coming towards him all the time from Eugene, because Eugene used him basically, you know, as a scapegoat for everything he's ever done wrong in his life. The weird thing is that somebody was close to the family had said was that even when Eugene was like 13, 14, 15 years old, he was carrying this doll around with him everywhere he went, which is really strange if you think. I mean, I don't know any 13, 14, 15-year-old boys that run around carrying dolls, you know. It was to the point where the doll actually had a spot at their kitchen table. Like, the parents had to make a spot for the doll. He slept with the doll slept with him in his room, in his bed every night. So strange things, like I said, started happening around the house, and he was claiming that Robert was doing them. There were many reports which said that Robert the doll could move freely throughout the house. When people would come to visit and the family would not be in the room with them, all of a sudden Robert would just like appear in the room. It was really weird, the doll. And people were like freaked out about that. They also say that he could change his expressions on his face and his eyes would blink. So
that's creepy.
Yeah, right? So at night, his parents would overhear Eugene having conversations with his doll, Robert. And he would talk in his usual voice for himself, but when he would start talking as Robert, his voice would totally change. And his parents just started to assume that, you know, it was just him, you know, Gene using a different voice to voice Robert. But as the years passed, they began to think that Robert might actually be real or, you know, coming to life or whatever. So as he grew up, Robert was his constant companion, like I said. He had his own chair at the table. He slept in his bed. There's a story that one day Eugene's aunt came to live with the family for a time. And she suggested to them that because, you know, they've been having all these strange occurrences with Robert, you know, like things happening in the house and the doll ending up in places that he was never put, that they should put him in the attic, lock him up in the attic. So the family took her suggestion and they did that. They took Robert up to the attic and locked him in a box. Well, that night, the aunt ends up dying in her sleep. And there was no proof that Robert was responsible for this, but the family was kind of convinced that she died because she made them move Robert out of Eugene's room. So after that happened, the Otises decided that they were going to let Robert stay in Eugene's room because, you know, they didn't want to piss off Robert and have him mad at him. So he ended up getting back to where he wanted. It's said that he could, at times, people could hear the running around up in the attic of little feet, and they could hear laughter up there, even though nobody was upstairs in the attic. Yeah.
It's creepy.
Yep. So, Gene finally moved away when he, you know, got married and went to college and stuff, and he left, and he ended up marrying some lovely lady he met in Paris, France. But Robert remained at his parents' house. Well, when his parents died, he inherited the house from them, and he inherited back the doll. So, as soon as he moves back to the house, he rekindles his friendship with Robert. And things start happening again. He's got to have a special spot at the table for Robert, and his wife thinks this is totally weird and strange, and thinks he's a little nutty. They also had to have a room in their house that had doll-like furniture in it that was just for Robert. So Robert had his own room, Eugene's artist loft area. That's where he made a room for Robert. And he would have Robert propped up against the window. And when children would walk by, they would say that they would see the doll like waving at them, or it would change windows and stuff, and it creeped them out, and none of the kids liked to go past their house.
I don't blame them.
So, I know, right? Could you imagine like looking up a window and seeing some creepy doll up there waving at you as you walk by? And, you know, and then they said that sometimes the doll would have like a very angry face on it when the kids would like walk by and stuff, which was weird. Eugene Otto died in 1974, and the house was sold to a lady by the name of Myrtle Reuter. Now, as a result of her purchasing the house, she also acquired the doll as well. She said that while Robert was in her possession, she had strange things that would happen when Robert was in the house with her. In fact, she had a daughter, and the daughter claimed that she had nightmares where Robert were in her nightmares and stuff. And the little girl did not like Robert at all. She said the doll could move around on its own, and a lot of other crazy events happened when she owned the house. So she finally donated the doll to his place where he's at now, called the Fort East Martello Museum, which is in Key West, Florida. And she gave it to the museum in 1994. He's been there ever since. And they say that Robert is 117 years old. Wow. He lives in a glass case at the museum, and it was actually a case that was donated by one of his followers or people that, were very interested in Robert. They actually gifted it to Robert for him to be in the museum. And it has like special lights on the inside to make sure that he doesn't, deteriorate and stuff like that. And there's special like heating and air conditioning to make it so that he doesn't, his insides don't rot out, I guess. When people are in the museum and if they say anything bad about Gene, because he does have art on display there that he had painted originally, or bad things about Robert, they say that bad things happen to them after they leave. People have had car accidents, they've had broken bones, they've lost jobs, divorces have happened, and other misfortunes. I came across a story about a lady that was at the museum, and without asking Robert's permission, she took a picture. And 3 days later, she was driving, I guess she had went to Florida to visit, and she was driving around, and she ended up in a car accident, like a really bad car accident. Her car got totaled. Well, 3 days later, she was in another car accident. She totally got T-boned. Somebody came out of nowhere. She doesn't know where they came from because they were not originally on the road. And she had another car accident. A couple months after that, they lived on a boat, actually, and that's why she was, in Key West. And she was going down the steps in her boat, and she had, like, these 3 steps that lead to, like, the very bottom of where her office was that she worked out of. And when she was going down the steps, she said she fell down 3 steps, and she ended up breaking her back. I mean, that's pretty messed up. So, yeah. So you don't want to mess with Robert. He is not, you don't mess with him. They say that Robert gets 1 to 3 letters a day, and not for what you would expect, talking about how great he is and all that. Actually, most of the letters that he gets are from people begging his forgiveness because of the misfortunes that happen to them after they visit and say mean things to him. Robert also receives emails and homages all the time, and at some point it came known to people that Robert has a sweet tooth. So people, when they come to visit, will leave candy outside of his little box there, and they also send candy to the museum for him. They say that guests who visit him at the museum and will leave sweets and money for him. The museum staff, however, will not consume any treats that are left for Robert because they're so worried that something bad will happen to them.
That's scary.
So anyway, that's the story of Chucky and how the story came from Robert the doll. And you can see some of the correlations. Chucky, in order to make Chucky come alive, they had to do like a voodoo thing, and they're saying that the lady that gave it to Robert was into voodoo.
I didn't realize it was based off of.
So what do you have for us today?
Well, the movie I'm doing is The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which is actually based off of the girl's name is Anneliese Michel, and she was born on September 12th, 1952. Have you seen this movie, Mother?
Yeah, I think me and Mrs. Raleigh saw it. Is that the one where she was at school and she said her having all these weird things happen? And
yeah, but I didn't know if you.
Or am I thinking?
Well, I mean, that does happen, pretty much. But was it about a court case?
Okay. Oh, I know there's tons of other stuff.
Was it about a court case though?
Oh, that's right, because they were there's all.
Yeah, this is the one about the court. This is about the court case.
Yeah. Okay.
That happened.
Oh, okay. So this isn't the actual. Okay,
this is it's based off that movie, but obviously names were changed and stuff. Like, because her name is not Emily Rose, it's Anneliese Michel, and she's from Germany.
Oh, okay.
So she was born in Leibelfing, Germany. She was born on September 12th, 1952. And before the age of 5, she had contracted mumps, measles, and scarlet fever, and she was held back a year in school because of this. So she was already like a very sick kid to begin with. And she also got tuberculosis at one point, which is kind of funny we're talking about that since we went to like a TB ward.
Oh, that is kind of neat.
Because that's around that time.
Huh.
So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, September 1968, it was around her 16th birthday. While with a friend, she suddenly lost consciousness, and she quickly recovered, and both girls just kind of laughed about it later. That following night at midnight, she woke up and couldn't move, and she felt like she was being pinned down to her bed. But she just kind of brushed it off. She told her mom about it, and she also peed the bed when it happened. So 1 year later, on August 24th, 1964, Anneliese experienced another blackout. Late in the evening, she experienced another frightening paralysis where she was unable to breathe and she could not cry out or say anything. She had siblings that were staying in the room with her. But her mother took her to the doctor the next morning. So they referred her to a neurologist to get tests because I think they were thinking she had like epilepsy or something like that.
Epilepsy.
That's kind of like what they were going because she had like the blackout and the seizures and stuff.
Okay.
EDD or something. Somewhere with this. You know, I'm talking about the brain. She did brain scan basically, but there was nothing that really concerned the doctor. And then they did some more tests, and he thinks that it was basically cerebral seizures. So after she went back to school, she started having a slew of health problems. She had her tonsils removed, and then she contracted
palsy.
That's probably what it is, and pneumonia. And she had to stop attending school, and she was bedridden. And then when she didn't start getting better, she was moved to a hospital. And she was there for like years. So on June 2nd, she was hospitalized for like years, like 2 years. She stayed in there.
Holy moly. Wow.
So she went back to school because they basically, so on June 2nd, while still in the hospital, she had another stiff arm, shortness of breath. On June 16th, Anneliese went again to get an EEG, which is the brain scan. It showed no disturbances. She was prescribed an anticonvulsant. And then on August 29th, 1970, she was finally allowed to go home from the hospital. But yeah, she was there for a while. Almost a year, I think. I think it was about a year.
Wow.
According to this. Yeah, stuck in the... and so she was behind in school because she was literally stuck in freaking hospital. So, during her stay in the hospital, she began to see what she described as fratzen, which were ghastly demonic faces. She saw those faces often, and she would say that the devil was inside her, and she felt empty inside. This is like in the fall of 1973, Anneliese told Dr. Lemmer that she was experiencing terrible stenches. So like she would just smell these terrible smells. In late 19
Oh, like rotting.
She described it as burning feces. Sounds terrible.
Ugh.
So
that sounds disgusting.
All
right.
In the late 1972, she suffered another seizure-like attack. She got another brain scan, and still was nothing wrong with her. In October, so the blacking out and body stiffness got more frequent. This was happening to her all the time. And then in spring of 1973, she began hearing knocking sounds in her room, like knocking on the walls. Her mother did not believe her, but her sisters also heard the knocking sounds. But who knows if that's like,
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
So wait a minute. If the sisters are saying that they're hearing them too, you would think the mom would believe all of them.
It might just be like a girl thing. I don't know.
That's silly.
So Anneliese talked to her parents about the demonic faces and claimed she was hearing voices telling her she was damned to hell forever. Yeah.
Oh,
so
God.
Anneliese's mother told her father she saw her standing in front of a statue of Mary with her face full of hatred and her eyes were like completely black. She's creepy.
Oh, that's creepy. Yeah. Wow.
So Anneliese went to San Domino with her father, but she was it was like a church kind of thingy. So they were going to like a shrine, but she was unable to enter the shrine at all. Like she could not physically walk through the shrine.
Really?
She couldn't look at holy pictures or sacramental stuff. And
okay, now all these are signs, and the parents are that obtuse they didn't realize that, you know.
I mean, eventually they do. Obviously,
aren't those usually signs?
They kind of like get a hint that it gets pretty crazy what's about to happen.
Right.
So they were with someone from it was a family friend. Thea. So she was wearing a medallion, like, you know, I'm talking like a saint medal. You know what I'm talking about? Those little things they wear.
Like a Sacred Heart medal.
Yes,
or something?
It was something like that. And it was religious, really neat. Well, it was underneath of her dress, but Anneliese literally pulled it off of her because she did not want her wearing it near her. But she had no knowledge that it was even there. And then when they left the place, because they tried to give her holy water, or there's some sort of sacred spring water, but she would not drink it because she said it smelled terrible and it made her sick. And when they tried to left, she knocked Thea down on the bus and broke her rosary.
Oh my God.
Anneliese was still not herself on the way home, but ironically, she became really good friends with Thea. On the way home from the bus, she spoke like a man, and she had a stench around her, the really bad poop stench.
What? Oh my God. Why would you ride home with her when she's like talking like a man and smelling like poop? That's gross. Ew.
Anneliese became friends with Thea because she thought that she could help her. And Thea would pray for her often. Anneliese told Thea that she knew the exact time and place when she was praying for her. And Thea would write down the times to confirm with Anneliese later. So, like, she could tell her exactly the time she was praying, which is kind of creepy.
That's weird.
On September right?
That is kind of creepy and weird.
On September 3rd, 1973, Mom made an appointment to see Dr. Luthi again. In a police report, Anna's the name of the mom, Anneliese, claimed that Dr. Luthi had suggested consulting a Jesuit.
Right.
But, Dr. Luthi swears in court that he never said this because of what happens later in the court case. Basically, like...
Okay.
Yes. So, Anneliese suggests to her mother that they see a priest, since medication is not helping, and that there was a suspicious that she might be possessed by a demon. Basically, they went on a huge search for a freaking priest, and they eventually found Father Alt. Basically, they went around, and they kept getting pushed around by priest to priest, because I feel like it's so hard to get, especially in the 1970s, probably hard to get an actual priest to get on board with an exorcism. So, in 1975, her conditions worsened, and on June, she visited Father Alt. She could no longer control herself. She would suddenly start throwing things at people. Just throwing stuff, which is kind of nice. And on the following Tuesday, Father Alt went to visit her, and he tried to pray the rosary with her, but she would not continue and had tears running down her face because she could not continue. At the end of the meeting, Father Alt prayed the Exorcismus Probatius. It's like a prayer. It's not quite an exorcism, but it's like a exorcism prayer.
Right.
You know what I mean? And she immediately stood up to defend herself and ripped the rosary to pieces.
Oh my God.
So, Father Roth went to check out Anneliese, and when he got there, Anneliese would run at him and scream, "Get out, and you are terrorizing me, or tormenting me," is what she said. Anneliese had not left her, basically, she didn't leave her home for a week, and she could not walk because her legs would not bend. And there were periods of time where she would not eat at all. She said that they would not allow her to eat the demons inside of her. But when she did eat, she would eat flies and spiders. So.
Oh, gross! Stop.
And she would, and when it was really hot outside, she would just stick her head in the toilet, and she would shatter the crucifixes in their house.
Oh my! Okay, and her parents don't think that anything's wrong with that. Their daughter's eating bugs.
They're like helping her get
and spiders.
They're helping her get an exorcism. On August 3rd, 1975, Father Alt and Father Ross received permission to proceed with small exorcism prayers. Not like a full exorcist, but like prayers. I believe it's like a leading up to it. And then in September, they wrote to the bishop asking to perform an exorcism as an actual Roman ritual. So the exorcisms did not start until September. 1975 was when this.
Okay.
It was 1975 was when the exorcism started at 4 p.m. That's exactly when the first one began. September 29th.
Why 4 p.m. or was that just when they?
I think that's when the time that you have to start, because it was very particular.
Oh, okay.
So on September, so they obviously started it. Typical exorcism crap, people screaming. If you've ever seen an exorcism, it's probably very similar.
But
interestingly, on September 29th, they actually recorded the exorcism. And there are 52 clips that recorded from the exorcisms.
Wow.
During one session, Anneliese was grabbed Thea, her friend, by the throat. Oh, it was just like normal, like crazy exorcism stuff. Some exorcism cases can extend to like months or even years, which was this case because it went into like, I believe it ended in June of the next year. So in February 29th, 1976, so this has been going on for like 5 months now, just constant exorcisms. She claimed that she had been the demon of everything from Lucifer. Hitler was apparently inside of her. Cain. There were some wild names in there. There were multiple demons in her too, is what she had claimed during these things. In February 29th, 1976, the demons had nothing more to say, and they only raved and moaned. They would no longer speak. They would like monologue and stuff before, like they would go on these wild rants. But it seemed like by February there was kind of like, we're just gonna scream now. We have nothing else to say, which is very weird. Isn't that strange?
That is weird.
And then in April, Anneliese told Father Alt that May and June were going to be rough, but July she would get her resolution. Which was foreshadowing to what would happen. Yeah. In May, she would like bang her head up against the wall. That was like a new thing she was doing. And she was biting people.
Nice. Oh, wonderful. Okay, let's go visit Anneliese. Maybe she can chew on us while we're there.
June 8th. On June 8th was the last time Father Alt would see her alive.
Okay.
Which has to do with when we start getting into the case stuff. The last exorcism took place on June 30th, 1976. She had a temperature of 39 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like very warm for a person.
39 degrees Fahrenheit?
Or not Fahrenheit. Makes sense. Celsius. No, 39 degrees Celsius.
Okay, I'm like, wait a minute.
That's very
right,
high.
Because they do Celsius over there, not
I'm pretty
Fahrenheit,
sure it's like 32 is Celsius. Yeah, it's because we're in Germany, you have to remember.
Right.
Her Annaliese's last words to Father Rentz were, "Please, abolition." She was, abolition. And then her last words were her actual last words, like to her family before she died, was, "Mama, please stay with me. I'm afraid." In total, there were 78 exorcisms before she died.
Oh my god!
So, and she died on that night. She died that night on July 1st, 1976. Remember, because she said that she would finally come to an end.
Right.
And I mean, it's kind of dark, but she died. She was only weighing 68 pounds.
Oh my gosh!
Which is like insane.
So she was so tight.
She wasn't eating. She wasn't eating. Remember?
Right.
Yeah, that's literally. So okay, we're gonna get into that. So the mother called the father to inform him that she was dead because she went into check in on her at like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. and they found that she was dead. Dr. Roth was called in to investigate. Dr. Roth estimated that her time of death was to be around 6 a.m. and he did not have the proper forms for a death certificate. So they called a second doctor in. Dr. Martin Keller was called to inspect the body, and he found that the body was still warm and emaciated. He did not issue a death certificate because he could not state that the death was due to natural causes. Post-mortem showed that the causes of death was starvation and possibly aggravated physical exertion. And then a criminal investigation was opened because of that. So the media gave huge attention to this case. It was like all over. It was apparently like the second largest thing, other than like the German stuff, like Nazi stuff, kind of. Father Rentz gave interviews, but he was asked not to speak by the archdiocese. They were like, "Hey, you guys, you need to stop doing interviews."
Right.
And then there was another father had a copy of a taped exorcism from it. So remember, these were all on recordings, which were later used as evidence. I'm not sure what they're as evidence of, but the police took the tapes and they took the tapes from him because he was publicly playing them for the public.
Oh, yeah, you can't do that when they're in the middle of a case.
Not during a case. On July 13th, 1977, Father Rentz and Father Alt and her parents were notified that they were being charged with negligent homicide, which is pretty tame, because I feel like they could have charged her for worse. The trial began on March 30th, 1978. Portions of the exorcism sessions were actually broadcast on live TV.
Oh, nice.
It was, like, all over. Huh. Her death, coupled with the fact that exorcisms were still happening, shocked the West Germans, because I don't think a lot of people knew that exorcisms to that extent.
Really?
Because, like, you can literally still watch, you can pull it up and watch them today. They're on, like, YouTube and stuff. It's very scary, because she sounds, like, demonic.
Really? Huh. We'll check that out
later. The prosecution asked that all 4 accused be found guilty of negligent homicide, and due to their failure to act, they asked only that the priests be fined, and then no punishment for the parents. Eventually, like, after it all happened, all 4 defendants were sentenced to 6 months in prison, and were suspended for 3 years, and 3 years probation is what I said. So the 6 months was suspended, and then they had 3 years of probation. And Father Alt was basically fined 4,800, whatever the German currency is. I looked it up. It's about $2,000, which is, like, very small. Like, I thought they would, like, do way more than that. And then the other father was, like, 3,600 German. It was like Deutschmarks. Yeah. I really don't know it. I can't pronounce it. And they were also charged for the court costs, and that was what it was. It was, like, one of the only court cases where exorcism was literally, they were basically trying to prove that exorcism was, like, real and was necessary in this case. But I mean, I still think that she would have lived more if they brought her to a doctor.
Well, yeah,
she was literally starving.
Obviously what they were doing wasn't working. She got starved to death, my gosh.
But she did not want to go. But she was, so later they kind of, like, looked at it, and they think that because of her, remember she was having the seizures, they think that that they probably should have intervened, because obviously
they say that sometimes. Yep.
I mean, I don't know because they were saying electroshock therapy would have helped, but I'm like, I don't know if that would have helped, but I think they at least should have helped her eat or something, because that was the main cause of death. But, yeah.
Right. I'm surprised they weren't feeding her intravenously like they do nowadays, you know what I mean?
Well, it's because they were freaking... This was,
were her
like,
parents from a certain religion, though? I mean, they're
Catholic.
But still...
They were Catholic. They were super Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah. Why do you think they were getting exorcisms?
I know, but that...
And then they were also...
Usually they wait
she would claim that she was being visited by Mary, Mother.
She was being visited by Mary?
There were, like, claims that she was being visited by Mary, and then, like, I don't know, it was pretty... That sounds kind of weird,
though, with all the other stuff going on. Are you sure it wasn't a demon, like, trying to mess with her?
Well, because there would be portions where she stopped, where she would be, like, she was perfectly fine for, like, a week, because Mary visited her, and then all of a sudden she was back to, like, biting people and hitting her head against
and
the
eating
wall.
flies and stuff. Oh my god!
And eating spiders.
Gross.
It was just weird. She would like suddenly be like, "I'm perfectly fine. Mother Mary visited me," and then she would just be crawling around on the ground again, and she couldn't move or anything. It was really crazy. Bonkers. You should listen to some of the tapes.
I am gonna have
very
to.
Scary. Even like though it's in German, but it's still creepy.
Really? Huh.
Just like the screaming.
Oh.
She doesn't sound human. But yeah, definitely recommend checking out. But yeah, that was the book I read. I read a book for this. It was called Anneliese Michel, A True Story of a Case of Demonic Possession. No, we don't know about true, but I was watching a thing about them. But yeah, they had, it's like one of the only ones that have been like recorded. Basically, all the court cases are hidden by the archdiocese. So.
Oh, of course. You know how
like
that
all
is.
The actual court documents. Of course, they're gonna cover that shit up.
Right? Yeah, because they don't want to be.
They don't want that out.
Right? Would you want to know that the church?
I think a lot of exorcisms stopped because of that.
They did for a very long while.
Yeah, it brought way too much.
Well, I mean,
bad
75
for
though,
the Catholic Church.
Doing that many though, and it's very
intense.
It was
1975. That's recent.
I mean, can you imagine? I don't, blame for her, for her giving up and not wanting to go on.
78 exorcisms. That's crazy
insane.
That she kind of predicted that she was gonna die, but at least she's hopefully at peace now. I don't know.
Could only hope.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have anything else? Is that it?
No, I think that's it. I think that concludes our Halloween episode here.
And just like to let everyone know, we're back to our normal schedule of once every 2 weeks.
Yes, thank goodness. Ooh, can't wait.
Yeah, it was.
So our next episode will not be until
the 12th.
November what? Yeah, November 12th will be our next episode. So in 2 weeks.
So if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at 2 Scaredy Cats Podcast, and please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. And to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these 2 scaredy cats.